Hello, and welcome to Election Night in America 2024. It's been 4 years since the highly controversial election of 2020, and as we all know, Joe Biden did win eventually, despite much attack from the Republicans, namely Donald Trump. He did win eventually, but he resigned from office due to old age, and Kamala Harris took over, so she is now running for re-election. Her vice presidential candidate is Andrew Yang, and her opponent is Mike Pence, former vice president. Since Trump was too old to run again, Mike Pence decided to run instead, and he picked Nikki Haley as his vice presidential candidate. So, once 7 p.m. happens, we will begin the election. It is now 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we have the poll closings in the state of Indiana, Kentucky, Vermont, Virginia, South Carolina, and Georgia. Our first state calls in the state of Kentucky, with its 8 electoral votes going to Mike Pence. He will also be winning his home state of Indiana, where he served as governor before becoming vice president. Another call we have is in the state of Vermont for Kamala Harris. Safe state, and it continues its streak. Now, we don't have any more calls at the moment, but what we can say is that South Carolina and Georgia are currently leaning in favor of the Republicans, with Virginia leaning in favor of the Democrats, though they haven't officially been won yet. We'll get to you with the next poll closing. At 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the polls closing in the states of North Carolina, West Virginia, and Ohio. We can project West Virginia will be won by Mike Pence. We can't project anything else, but we can confirm that Mike Pence is leading in North Carolina, with Kamala Harris leading in Ohio. But this is typical trends for Ohio, as we usually get the vote out of the mostly Democratic areas first, like Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbia. The rural areas is where Mike Pence will surely make up that difference. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a large batch of poll closings up in the New England area, the northeastern corner, all the way down to Oklahoma. And, that was an accident. Sorry about that. We can confirm Mike Pence wins the states of Oklahoma, Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. These are states we can all project will be in his column, as Kamala Harris wins the states of Illinois, and its 19 electoral votes went down from the last election, as most states in this sort of area, from Minnesota all the way down to West Virginia, even Pennsylvania, and up through New York. These states all collectively lost electoral votes except for Wisconsin and Indiana. But aside from that, she will also be winning the states Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., and Maine's 1st Congressional District. Now, when it comes to states that each candidate is leading in, Florida is currently a lead for Mike Pence, and so is Missouri. But every single other state, Maine at large, Maine's 2nd District, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania are all currently leads for the former vice president. They're both former vice presidents. We'll get back to you at the 8:30 poll closing. At 8:30, we can project Arkansas will go to Mike Pence. That is currently our only projection. As you can see, every other state is remaining in the same trends. At 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we have another batch of poll closings out of several states, mostly in the central region. Starting off, we have the state of Louisiana, Kansas, Nebraska's at-large vote, along with the 3rd and 1st districts, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming for Mike Pence, as New York can be projected to go to Kamala Harris. We can also project that Colorado will go to Kamala Harris. We have another projection. The state of Virginia will also go to Kamala Harris. And if you're curious as to what their actual numbers are, not their projected numbers up there, it is, if we pan the camera down, 124 to 88. Those are the current numbers, but they are leading and are projected to potentially win up to these many, 170 and 167, though nothing's final yet, until the electors vote, of course. Alright, we have 2 projections to make, one in the state of South Carolina, which will be going to Mike Pence, and the second in the state of Missouri, which will also be going to Mike Pence, giving him 107 electoral votes. Kamala Harris still at 124, leading, but the lead is shrinking. At 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we have poll closings in just 4 states, Nevada, Montana, Utah, and Iowa. And we can confirm that Utah and Montana will be going for Mike Pence, with the states of Nevada and Iowa going in favor of Kamala Harris. And we also have the leads, of course, to characterize. We have a lead in New Mexico for Kamala Harris, along with Minnesota, and Nebraska's 2nd district, along with Arizona. Mike Pence is leading in these other states and is beginning a lead in Ohio. But we do not know if that lead will continue. We'll just have to see. We have a projection to make. The main at-large vote will go to Kamala Harris, along with New Hampshire, with the main 2nd district becoming a lean Republican district. Not quite a state, but it's still something. 1 electoral vote is better than none. It's 117 to 130, if you can see that there. It is currently 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and we have a plethora of West Coast states, all of which are projected to be safe Democratic. These are California, Washington, Oregon, and Hawaii. Now, that's a huge batch of electoral votes, 78 in total, bringing up Kamala Harris to 209. Mike Pence will win the state of Idaho, though, which, of course, helps. We'll get back to you whenever we have another state call. We have a couple projections to make. First, in the state of New Mexico, which will go to Kamala Harris. Our next projection is in the state of Ohio, projected to go to Mike Pence, slowly becoming more and more of a Republican Party stronghold, though it is losing electoral votes, which does not help the Republican Party, as you can expect. And we also, we also have a projection in the districts, with Maine 2nd District going fully red, and Nebraska's going fully blue. These 2 districts are slowly solidifying. Let me fix that. There we go. These 2 districts are slowly solidifying for either party. We'll get back to you whenever we have another projection. We have our next projection. Iowa is going red, but we have some key race alerts. Nevada is trending blue, so is Michigan and Wisconsin. That Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Detroit, Michigan, and of course, Las Vegas, Nevada vote is starting to come in, which is starting to help the states trend in a more blue direction. We, of course, do not know if this will continue, but it's something to keep in mind. We have Next state call in the state of Minnesota. It's going fully blue. Less valuable than usual at only 9 electoral votes. It used to be 10. All the way back in the 1970s, it was 10 electoral votes. That's also when it began its streak as a Democratic state. The longest streak of any state, since DC technically isn't a state. Longest streak of any state going blue. Though DC is the only place to go blue 100% of the time, and by a 90% margin, so pretty safe there. The polls have finally closed in Alaska. We cannot make a projection from Alaska quite yet, but it is leaning red so far. But we do have other projections. Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are starting to trend more red, with Michigan staying blue for now. We don't know if this will stay, but as a rural vote starts to come in more and more, Pennsylvania is slowly flipping back to red, and so is Wisconsin. We'll get back to you whenever we have a projection to make. We have a projection in the state of Florida. 31 electoral votes, crucial for Mike Pence to win. It was a must-win state, and he's won it. Kamala Harris could not, unfortunately, appeal to Latino voters very well in this area. She mostly appeals to African Americans and Asians. Unfortunately, Florida is a mostly Latino and, of course, white state. You'll mostly find old retirees and Mexicans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans. That's what you're mostly going to find in Florida. And she unfortunately did not have the appeal to that audience. But her black appeal is helping her slowly inch up in the states of Georgia and North Carolina, though we do not know if it will be enough for her to win those states. Okay, we have another projection in the state of Texas. 41 electoral votes. The state that gained the most amount of electoral votes from the census, a grand total of 3, with Florida gaining 2, and New York actually losing the most, losing 2. Because of this, Texas is very valuable, and if the Republican Party ever lose Texas, then they will need to fundamentally change their issues, their policies, the way they approach things, because if they lose Texas, then they really need to start flipping back other states. They are usually Democratic and keeping them as solid GOP holds, or else they're kind of screwed for future elections. But by now, 2024, they have won the state of Texas. Let me just clean the screen real quick. They have won Texas, bringing the numbers up to 217 to 224. Those last two calls were extremely helpful for Mike Pence. Alright, we got another call in the state of Wisconsin. It will go fully red. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, along with Ohio and Minnesota, make up a region of the U.S. that has two names, actually. The Rust Belt is the first name, and the second name is the Blue Wall, which more specifically just refers to these three. Because those three states, for a while, for the entirety of the 90s and 2000s, and the first election in the 2010s, 2012 election, all went blue, going red in 2016 by narrow margins, and then going back to blue in 2020. It appears that Wisconsin is going red again. Usually all three of these states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, they usually all vote together. It is possible, with the way things are trending, Michigan might be an outlier in this election. Last time there was an outlier out of these three states was in 1988, with Wisconsin going blue and the other two going red. We will see what happens. Alright, we have another projection in the state of Alaska. 3 electoral votes going to Mike Pence. The margins are narrowing up significantly in the state of Alaska. It only went to Mike Pence by about 9% this time around, 10% in the last election. It is slowly becoming more and more Democratic, but nowhere near enough for it to actually go to the Democrats. Speaking of the Democrats, though, they are slowly building up a lead in Georgia. Slowly. North Carolina and Georgia are hotly contested right now. Georgia shocked the country when it went to Joe Biden by just a dozen thousand votes, if I remember properly. About 12,000 votes it was, or a 0.2% margin. It was very close. Lots of recounts happened there, but they were not able to change the results enough to flip it in the Republicans' favor in 2020. We'll see if it goes blue again in 2024 due to Kamala Harris's African American appeal. We got another state call. Nevada will be going for the Democrats. Kamala Harris has won this state by narrow margins, just 3%, but she's won it. Las Vegas vote always helps, since that's where the bulk of the voters in Nevada live. That and Carson City, of course, and those are, as per usual, the only Democratic counties in Nevada. So, because of that, it's going blue. It's currently 2:30 to 2:30. This is anyone's election at the moment, with Arizona and Georgia, Michigan leaning blue, and Pennsylvania and North Carolina leaning red. Alright, we have a projection to make in the state of North Carolina. It will be going fully red, but not by much, just a measly tilt margin. It went to Trump by 1.7% in 2020. In 2024, it's going to Mike Pence by a measly 0.7%. It is leaning blue ever so slightly, but North Carolina, it's like a mirage state almost, it seems, because it always looks like it's gonna go blue, but then ends up going red. Last time it went blue was in 2008, also by a tilt margin under President Barack Obama. We have another call to make in the state of Arizona. The state will be going to former Vice President Kamala Harris. She will win the state, not by much, but she has won the state. She has some Native American appeal, but not a huge amount. But just enough to appeal to Arizona. She's won the state by 0.2%, so not something to brag about, but it's better than leading by literally nothing. I think we can all safely say. So Arizona will be going to Kamala Harris, bringing the current numbers up to 246 to 242, with only 3 states left to decide this election: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia. If we crunch some numbers here, it appears that Mike Pence needs Pennsylvania. He needs 2 states, at least. He needs to flip either Georgia or Michigan into his favor if he wants to win this election. Pennsylvania's been trending ever so slightly red this entire time. Past a certain point, it was blue at first, as we all saw, but it did eventually trend in a more red direction thanks to more rural counties. But he's gonna need to win either Michigan or Georgia. If he doesn't win either of those 2 states, he will unfortunately lose this election. Well, unfortunate for the Republicans, of course, not unfortunate for the Democrats. Just depends on what side you're on, I guess, on whether or not it's unfortunate. We got another state call in the state of Pennsylvania. Mike Pence is the apparent winner in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, this is getting real tight, as you can see. It's 265 to 242, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there, with the little bar. So, essentially, what needs to happen is Mike Pence needs to flip one of these states, and Kamala Harris needs to win both of them. If Kamala Harris loses one of these 2 states, which she is, fortunately for her, on track to win, but it is extremely close. The Rust Belt is slowly trending more and more in a Republican area, whilst the more southwestern region of the country is trending more blue. It's like corners flipping, essentially. We'll get back to you when we have our next projection. Our second to last state call for the election will be the state of Georgia, which will go blue by 0.4%. A little better than Joe Biden did, because of her being of Kamala Harris being, of course, a partial African American. She has that black appeal, which nearly helped her win North Carolina, but not by enough. But it did help her win Georgia, which is slowly trending more and more Democratic. Oh, so slightly. It could potentially become a future bellwether state, we don't know. But all that's left is the state of Michigan, which is hanging in the balance of this election. We'll get to you whenever we have a call for it. And we have a call in the state of Michigan. It's 2 days later, and we finally have a call to make. Michigan will be going blue by 0.2%. Similar margins to Donald Trump in 2016 when he flipped Michigan. It is trending red. That cannot be ignored. The entire Rust Belt is trending red. This is as close as an election can get, let's admit it. 273 to 265. This is one of the closest elections in American history. Only beaten by, if I'm remembering properly, George W. Bush and Al Gore in 2000, and Rutherford Hayes and Tilden in, I forget what the election year was. It was in the 1800s. I can remember that much at the moment. I think it was the 80s. Point is, this was a close election. That much cannot be denied. When it comes to flips we saw, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania were two flips. If we flip these states in favor, you have literally just the exact same results from 2020. So Wisconsin and Pennsylvania are the only two flips we see. The Democratic areas are getting a little broken up, as you can see, with Illinois, Nebraska, 2nd District, Minnesota, Michigan, Georgia. All these areas just kind of randomly located, it seems almost, with, of course, the Northwest and Northeast and Southwest corners becoming Democratic strongholds. It's like the corners and like a belt. It's like a belt across the nation going red, with sparse pockets of Democratic appeal in the central region and a bit in the south east. I almost said west again. So, this is the election of 2024 between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. And if you've enjoyed this video, you can leave a like or subscribe if you like it, or leave a comment down below if you have anything to say about it. Do I think this will actually happen? If I get this right, I'm a messiah when it comes to elections if I get this right. But, yeah, we'll see if this is actually what happens in 2024. I doubt it, but we'll see. It's just a fun little thing. Hypothetical scenario. You can also follow me on Instagram at Alex5, by the way. And until next time, I'll see you later, buddy. Bye-bye.